Picture it. Open steppe, 1812. Napoleon is standing on flat grass that runs to the horizon in every direction, and the horizon starts to move. Not shimmer, move. 20,000 riders pouring out of a dust cloud like the ground itself came alive. Behind him, 5,000 men, the most disciplined infantry on earth. Muskets, bayonets, cannon, and a commander who's never lost a battle that mattered. And not one of them's on a horse. Hold on to that. It's gonna matter more than the muskets do. Drop your prediction right now. Does he walk off this field? Because here's the real question. The one this whole thing turns on. Every gun he's got outranges every bow they've got. So, why is he still the one in trouble? We're scoring it live. Survival tier and a casualty counter on every chapter. The Mongols haven't loosed a single arrow yet, and Napoleon's already outnumbered 4-1. Chapter 1. First contact. The wind tests the wall. The ground decides this fight before anybody looses an arrow. Open steppe. Flat, low-rolling hills, no trees, no walls, no choke points. This is the exact surface the Mongols spent 2 centuries winning on, and it's the worst possible floor for a static European army trying to fight a defensive battle. Quick thing people get wrong about this army. The bow wasn't really their weapon. Picking the table you played on was. The horde breaks down clean. Roughly 15,000 light horse archers up front, the men who built the empire. Each one carries 2 quivers, around 60 arrows. Behind them, held back, 5,000 heavy lancers. The lancers don't show yet. They're the closing argument, not the opening line. The archers hit first with a system they've been running since the 1200s. Ride to about 100 yards, loose 3 or 4 arrows in under 5 seconds, wheel and gallop out before anyone can answer. The next wave's already inbound before the first one clears. A rotating drum of fire. Never still, never committed, never given the French a clean target. Now the physics, because this is where it gets ugly for Napoleon. The Charleville musket, standard French infantry weapon in 1812, is a smoothbore that hits a man reliably out to maybe 50 to 100 yards. That's the ceiling. The Mongol composite bow, wood, horn, and sinew, cured for a year, drawn well over 100 pounds, puts aimed arrows on target at 100 to 130 yards, and harassing fire well past that. So the front ranks are standing in a band where arrows reach them and musket balls fall short. Every French volley at those wheeling riders is wasted powder. And these men wear no armor. The arrows aren't punch and plate. They don't need to. They just need to find shoulders and faces in a packed formation. And they do. Napoleon reads it in the first 2 minutes. Hold the line, chase nobody, eat the harassment, and let the guns talk. Because here's the part the musket versus bow argument always botches. The musket was never going to be his answer. The artillery is. His 6 and 12 pounders throw round shot to 900 yards and beyond. Not 300, 900. That's 3 times past the bow's best range. The Mongols don't have a single weapon that reaches his gun line, and his gun line reaches everything they've got. First volley goes out, round shot against loose. Moving cavalry isn't efficient. A cannonball wants a packed block to earn its keep. And the archers are deliberately spread to deny exactly that. But one ball lands in the middle of a wheeling knot and the whole field sees it. Horses fold, riders scatter. The Mongols have faced siege engines before. They have not faced field guns that reload this smoothly and reach this far on open ground from a standing army. The horde drifts back out and the tempo cools. Their commanders are recalibrating in real time. The enemy has reach they didn't plan for. The French line is bleeding. Outer ranks taking arrows, men down. Casualties, they can't trade back yet, but the line holds. Nobody broke. Nobody chased. That discipline is the only reason Chapter 1 isn't a whole video. First blood to both. Neither side has shown its hand. Survival tier. French, B. Mongols, A. Casualty counter. French, approximately 150. Mongols, approximately 200. Chapter 2. The feigned retreat, the oldest trap in the world. The Mongols don't linger on ground that isn't working. Over the next hour, the harassment quietly leans southeast toward a river valley with dense tree lines down both flanks. The French follow because following is the only move. Standing still on open steppe means bleeding out by inches. The valley at least offers flanks they can anchor, which is exactly what the Mongols want. The feigned retreat is the oldest tool in the box, and I need you to hear me on this. It's not a trick, it's a system. A unit breaks and runs in fake panic. The enemy, certain the line just cracked, chases. They stretch, lose shape, and ride straight into a flanking force waiting out of sight. It broke Polish and German knights at Legnica in 1251. It broke the Russian princes on Sit River in 1238. It broke professional Jin armies in China. Every single time, the same human flaw. Disciplined soldiers see a runner, and every nerve screams pursue. And here's the thing the movies get wrong about these guys. The image everyone carries is the screaming charge. The real Mongol signature was the opposite. Make you come to them, then close the door. The charge was almost never the plan. Napoleon knows the pattern cold. He's read the record harder than most European commanders ever bothered to. So, when a cluster of archers on his left flank suddenly bolts northeast, riders scattering, a gap yawning open, the bait laid out clean, he doesn't so much as lean toward it. He orders squares. The square is a specific piece of geometry, around 500 men in a hollow rectangle, 4 ranks deep on every side. Bayonets fixed and pointing out in all directions. Guns anchor the corners. Interior men load and pass muskets forward. The whole thing runs on one idea. No horse will impale itself on a bayonet hedge, so no cavalry charge can find a face to break. A wall with no back. A wedge of lancers tests it anyway. Comes out of the tree line at a trot, building to a gallop. Looking for the broken pursuit line they were promised. They find squares instead. The horses refuse the steal, and the wedge peels off 20 yards short, never committing the full weight of the core. The trap didn't close because the prey didn't run, but the Mongols adapt, and they adapt fast. That's the part European armies kept underestimating right up until it killed them. Within minutes, the archers reorganize around all 4 faces of every square at once and start pouring arrows in from every direction. And the square, built to deny cavalry an angle, has no answer for this. It's now a stationary block surrounded by men who don't need to close to kill it. Outer ranks start dropping in volume. Front man falls. Next rank steps up. The rank behind loads and feeds the line. Structurally, it holds. The training is doing precisely what it's built to do. But the human cost climbs fast, and you can't rotate fresh men in the outer rank without collapsing the shape. This isn't a charge the geometry repels. It's multi-directional attrition, and the French are wearing it. Napoleon watches the outer rank casualty rate and makes the call. Every gun loads canister. The retreat didn't break him, but the Mongols found the square's flaw without it. And now both sides know what the next phase looks like. Survival tier. French, C. Mongols, A. Casualty counter. French, approximately 600. Mongols, approximately 450. Chapter 3. Canister rain. The equation changes. The valley narrows as the fight moves deeper in. Bad news for the Mongols, and the first real break in terrain Napoleon's caught all day. The tree lines squeeze inward, choking the usable frontage to maybe 400 yards. On open steppe, that compression means nothing. The horde just swings wide. Here, it forces the archers to bunch to keep their arrow volume up on all 4 faces. The mobility that made them untouchable is starting to cost them. This is the moment Napoleon's been steering toward the whole time. Okay, quick aside, because I know what this is starting to feel like. 3 chapters of the French getting shot and holding on. It feels like a slow loss. Stay with me, because right here is where the matchup flips. And it flips on one piece of hardware everyone forgets to weigh. Canister. Understand it before the next beat. A canister round is a tin can packed with iron balls the size of musket shot, somewhere between 25 and 80 of them depending on the gun. The propellant fires, the tin shreds, the balls spread in a cone. At long range, it's a thin, wide spray. Inside a couple hundred yards, it's a different weapon entirely. And a 12-pounder firing canister up close doesn't clear a target, it clears a lane. 30 feet wide of whatever's standing in it. And here's what the books underplay. That lane reaches. Effective canister from these guns runs out past 250 yards, and a 12-pounder will throw it lethally towards 600. The Mongols have to be inside 130 yards to aim a bow. There is no range at which they can shoot these squares that isn't already inside the gun's killing cone. Napoleon waits anyway, because closer is worse. The archers press in to keep arrows on the squares, the valley funneling them tighter with every pass. 80 yards. The crews hold. 60. Still holding. Outer ranks taking hits the whole time. Men down on every face. Gunners watching their general for the nod. Under 80 yards, every gun fires at once. On compressed cavalry at that range, it's a massacre. Horses and riders come apart in clusters, the front wave folding back into the wave behind. And the valley walls means there's nowhere to break wide fast enough. The Mongols don't rout. This army never routs easy. But discipline doesn't argue with physics. Dozens go down in the first volley, and the screaming of the wounded horses carries over everything. Now the Mongol commanders make their decision, and it's the one bet they have left. The harassment isn't cracking these squares, and the valley has turned the guns into something new. So they spend the closing argument. All 5,000 heavy lancers, the reserve they'd been protecting since the first chapter, in one mass charge aimed straight at the squares before the artillery can reload. This is the crisis. If the lancers land before the guns are back up, the squares meet that weight with nothing but bayonets and a single volley. French crews can reload a 12-pounder in under 2 minutes on a good day. These aren't good days. They're working under arrows. Dragging dead gunners aside, replacements stepping in. They get one more canister volley out before the lancers close. It guts the charge's front. The lead wave folds. But 5,000 riders carry enough mass that the back waves shove through the gaps and slam into the square faces anyway. The squares hold. Bayonets, point-blank musket fire, 4 locked faces with no clean angle to punch through. The outer ranks take the worst losses of the day. Men dying inside arm's reach of the enemy. But not one square breaks. Not one. And this is the part worth sitting with. The square's whole legend comes from cavalry. 3 years later, at Waterloo, French horsemen would batter British squares for hours and never crack one. True. But the story nobody tells beside it is that squares were death traps. The second they caught fire, they couldn't answer. A square getting shot to pieces and unable to shoot back is the worst place on a battlefield. The Mongols, functionally, are horse artillery. And they spent this whole chapter doing to Napoleon exactly what horse artillery does to a square. The geometry that just saved him from the lancers is the same geometry pinning him in place for the archers. The Lancer Corps is finished as an offensive force. Canister and volley fire shredded its cohesion, and what's left pulls back in pieces. Both sides have crossed a line. The French are still standing. The Horde's 2 real weapons, mobile harassment and shock cavalry, have both failed to break the wall. Survival tier, French, C. Mongols, C. Casualty counter, French, approximately 1,400. Mongols, approximately 3,800. Chapter 4. The Final Calculation. Who breaks first? The squares fall back to a low ridge on the valley's north edge. 3 sides drop into broken, uneven ground. Not impassable, but steep enough that a charge-up loses its speed before it arrives. Best defensive ground Napoleon's found all day. He takes it. The Mongols don't follow him up. They don't need to. They own every other direction, and they know it. And what they shift to now is simpler and harder to beat than anything they've thrown yet. No charges, no feints. The remaining archers spread into a loose ring around the ridge and cycle through in small groups. Loose arrows at the perimeter pull back before the guns can track. It isn't dramatic, it's arithmetic. Every pass costs the French a few men, and from a fixed position, the French have no way to spend men back. Napoleon does the math out loud to his staff. The squares can hold this ridge against arrows basically forever. The geometry still works. The men are still in formation. The guns still cover the slopes, but the cartridge pouches are getting light. A French infantryman carries about 60 rounds into a fight. After hours of this, the outer ranks are digging into the last of them, and the artillery's powder isn't bottomless either. The ridge that looks like a fortress is really a clock, and it's running down. He can't stay, and the horde doesn't even have to charge again. They just wait, and waiting, by the way, was always the most Mongol thing on this field. The patient kill, not the glorious one. So here's the call. And here's where that little detail from the start of the video comes due. Remember, not one of his 5,000 is mounted. A general with cavalry drives those archers off, or screens a clean exit, or makes them pay for circling. Napoleon can't. He has no horsemen to push the ring back a single yard. The thing that turns a survivable defense into a forced retreat isn't the arrows. It's the empty space where his cavalry should be. And that's the honest verdict on this whole matchup, because history actually ran the experiment. Every time disciplined gunpowder infantry truly beat a steppe horde, the Russians against the Crimean Tatars at Melody in 1572, outnumbered worse than this and still winning, they did it from behind a wall of wagons. A rolling fort bristling with cannon, with their own cavalry covering the flanks. Guns and discipline alone were never the whole answer. You needed something to hide behind and something with hooves to chase them off. Napoleon has the guns. He has the discipline. He has neither of the other two. That's the gap. And the Mongols are standing in it. So the order goes out. Consolidate. The separate squares compress into one big formation. A square on the march. And the whole thing starts moving, not toward the open steppe that's been killing him, but along the river, toward the broken, wooded ground where cavalry can't get a run up and the tree lines do the work his missing horsemen can't. Artillery takes the lead angles, clearing the path with round shot. Every 200 yards is a negotiation. Fire, move, hold, fire again. The Mongols follow and harass, but they don't commit. Their own quivers have run thin after hours of it, and the Lancer Corps isn't in any shape to make another run on those bayonets. The logistics problem strangling the French is squeezing the horde too, just from the other side. The fighting withdrawal holds. Roughly 2,800 French march off that field and into the trees. The Mongols keep the ground. The valley, the ridge, the steppe. By every classical measure, that's a Mongol victory. But they paid nearly 5,800 men to manage it, against a force a quarter of their size that never broke formation once. No Mongol commander in history took losses at that ratio against foot soldiers and called it clean. Gunpowder didn't beat the horde. Geometry did. And even geometry only bought an exit. Survival tier. French, D. Mongols, B. Casualty counter. French, approximately 2,200. Mongols, approximately 5,800. Conclusion. Napoleon walks into the trees. The steppe behind him is still full of riders who won't follow him in. He survived because of the square, not the musket, and barely because he had no horse to answer theirs. The Mongols won the ground and lost the argument. Subscribe if you want the next one. We're going somewhere the forums still haven't settled.